Ty, I live in California. Ty lives in Ontario, which is the province that's over Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania of the great country of the United States of America. And I had to look that up this morning because I have no idea where Ontario is, because those of us who live in California think nothing exists outside of us. I apologize.
Yeah.
And Brian lives in the Chicago area.
Okay.
Um, I want to I want to start and tell a quick story about why what attracted me so much to Ty and why I reached out to him to have him on the podcast. Many years ago, I was in Africa. I was in a very isolated village where people spend their entire life fetching water. That's all they do. It's just rows of people walking anywhere from a mile to 10 miles a day to bring water to their family. The only objects that they had that I recognized from my life was clothes. Everything else, they lived in teepees, and they didn't, all their utensils and pots and pans and everything were all homemade. And I was walking, I was filming with a dad who was 90 years old who lived with his five grandkids, and the mom had died. I was told the mom had died from AIDS. Anyway, and one day we were walking on this trail, and everyone's barefoot, and I mean, it's really like out of a movie. It's like I felt like I was in a time warp. But I'm walking along this trail with the kids, and there's this huge pile of trees, of maybe like small trees, with a diameter. The smallest trees is being circumference of being my arm, and the biggest trees is maybe being like the circumference of a basketball. And there's this huge pile of trees that's like 20 or 30 feet tall, and they explained to me that there was a elephant there with its baby, and a lady who was fetching water stumbled across the elephant and the baby, and the elephant grabbed the woman, used its trunk and grabbed the woman and beat her to the ground and killed her, and then pulled over all the trees in the adjacent area and covered the woman. And they said that's how intense elephants are about protecting their young. Not only did it kill her, but then it buried her under, maybe it was 50 trees. I mean, it was a huge pile of trees to make sure that the threat was neutralized. And how I stumbled across Ty's account is he was, I presume he was in his house, and he was giving a talk that basically explained his frustration of how the response, the COVID response, and I want to be very clear, not COVID, but the COVID response was affecting his daughter's life. And it really resonated with me because I have three boys, and that's the only thing I care about. Two, is how the COVID response is affecting my three little boys and what I need to do as a parent. I'm singularly focused on making the world a better place for them. And that same passion that elephant had to preserve its baby at all costs. And they said elephants are super friendly when they're not with their kids, but when they're with their kids, you have to stay the fuck away from them. And I just felt like he saw this exactly like I did. Him and I would have no problem. Like if we were 18-year-old guys, this COVID thing would be great. It would be more time at the bar and meeting girls, but we're not 18-year-old guys. Something biologically, emotionally, chemically has shifted in us, and at all costs, we're willing to do anything and everything to make sure our kids have a healthy and prosperous world to live in. And the numbers of children dying under the age of 18 are statistically so low for this SARS-CoV-2, and there's a lot of evidence that shows that kids are better off getting it and fighting it off themselves, that we're seeing something that makes no sense if we are singularly focused on protecting our kids. And bingo. So here he is, and the miracle of modern technology has allowed us to use our Star Trek devices and jump on a call together.
Yeah, man. That's a crazy story, man. And no, you're absolutely right. Had I not had children, would I have taken this as serious? And not really. I mean, my business has not been affected. I'm an essential worker. Um, aside from not being able to go catch a movie or go to a restaurant, I mean, nothing's really changed. It's just my kids, not being able to get on the big yellow tube to go to a school to be with their friends. I mean, I've already had my opinions on the public education system, but just being able to shelter my kids as much as possible, but it still penetrates, right? It's infiltrated my life. They're suffering now. We're a year into this, and you know they're just unaware against anything that they should be fighting right now. So that's why it's up to me to show up and fight for them. You know.
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Hey, welcome back.
Hey, I don't know what happened there. It just booted me out for some reason.
Maybe when I stopped recording. Um. So. So pick up where you left off. You were basically saying if you were 18 years old, how this wouldn't have affected you. You wouldn't have probably responded as like this.
Yeah, definitely not, man. Because I've just always been the type of person that I navigate life on my own terms, and like I said, being an essential worker, still being able to make money. I mean, this stuff really doesn't affect me. I've got, 3 decades of my life where before this happened. So for them to tip the scales, this would have to go on another 30 plus years for me to go, oh, I guess this is just the way it is. I still know the difference, right? Kids have no idea. And, especially really young kids who have now been we're year 2 of this. Soon they're like, they don't even really know the difference, and soon they'll never know the difference, right? So it absolutely is the reason and the passion, my motivator, behind me even speaking out or wanting to do anything is because I used an analogy last week, at the rallies that I host, and I said, picture this life as a relay race, and I'm running, I got the
Damn. Lost him again.
man, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
How's your signal on your phone?
My
Your
signal's
picture looks
yeah,
okay, and
it looks okay.
your picture looks great. We'll give this one more try. You were saying that the kids won't know any different.
Yeah, the kid they won't know any different. I mean, the majority of their life, is so far, whether they're 7, 8 years old, has been just playing, and now they got their kids, they're being forced to wear masks, and they're being, and if they fidget with them, students in schools are getting sent to the corner because they had a hands-on incident. And hands-on when I was a kid was like if you got in a fight. Now it's just like, oh, your child touched another child, so now they're in detention. Like it's insane. It's insanity. And I really feel for these kids, especially the kids that don't have parents with a backbone. You know, and that's really why. I mean, I've always been passionate about the youth. I mean, I was a bit of a troubled youth myself, and I just come to learn that the things I've gone through, the things that have happened to me happened, and I came out on the other side fine, alive, and great, so that I can help the next person maybe go through a similar situation better or easier. And really, yeah, without the kids, man, like we were saying, if it weren't for the kids, I wouldn't even really care. I'd be making my money. I'd keep to myself. I mean, being able to not go to the movies or a bar or a club or a game is not really, life changing for me.
How old are your kids?
My oldest is 12 and my youngest is 10.
And what do they think is happening? Like, do they know? How much do you tell them? What do you talk about with them?
I talk about everything. See, I'm a little bit of I'm an unconventional parent. I've read books like The Conscious Parent and The Awakened Family, and just changed my perspective on how I view parenting children. A lot of us, we tend to try to shelter our kids and raise them in a way that will lead them in the direction we want them to go, preparing them for the future. And I was the same, right? But now, I mean, the future is an illusion. Like, all we have is right now. So I treat my kids as equals. Like, they're as old as they'll ever be right now. So I don't shelter them and try to keep things from in hopes that one day later that they'll be what I hope them to be. I just I treat them with them as an equal. I don't. They know everything. Like they know everything. And it's important that we do that, right? So, my daughter actually spoke at one of my rallies a couple weeks ago and just gave a speech to the parents and said that, she's not afraid of the virus. My kids have never been vaccinated. My kids, we eat healthy. We play outdoors. We get nice amounts of vitamin D when they're not spraying the skies. And, we really just, we try to incorporate the lifestyle. And my kids know that comes with what we ingest and whether it's visually, verbally, what we eat, whatever it is, a healthy lifestyle does not come from a needle. So my kids know, and they know they're not afraid of a virus. They're afraid of being judged by other people for not wearing a mask, right? Or for, that's what they're afraid of. So my daughter just basically said out to the parents, like, it's up to you, to unmask your kids. Like, you need to tell us. You need to keep us in the loop. These kids they're not dumb. They're not dumb. And if you would just like get on their level and have a conversation with them like they're a human and not like they're beneath you, you can learn a lot from your kids, man. Like, I realize that, yes, I'm here to protect and as a guardian to my children are really raising me up to be the man that I'm supposed to be.
My
Yeah.
my kids are younger than yours. I have a pair of 4-year-olds and a 6-year-old, and I'm in a similar boat to you. I believe that respecting your kids is hugely important, and treating them as equals. But that being said, I don't share any of the fear with them. And I know your kids are older, meaning like they'll say to me, "Hey, how come everyone's wearing a mask and we're not wearing masks?" And I give them a very simple answer. I said, "Because you're healthy." I said the masks are just for people who aren't healthy, and they eat too much sugar. But I'm guessing when they're 12, then they might have a follow-up question. Like, my kids don't have a follow-up question.
And that's just young, right? They're still kind of processing, right? Like, my kids are old enough that they, and plus with the internet, right? So my kids have been exposed to things like YouTube and TikTok, and they see a lot of that. So I'm, as much as I'd love to be the one that they're getting their information from, I'm finding myself having to give them, a fair amount of counter information. They'll come to me with something they've seen. In the beginning of this, like, my daughter would say, Dad, like, why are you going to protest, or why are you going to rally? Change the government's rules, right? Or, she just, in the beginning, they'd be like, why don't you just wear a mask? Like, I don't want to get in trouble. Right? They don't want people to look at them. They don't want to be centered out. And they've seen they've seen a lot. Like, when they come with me, they won't wear a mask, right? My wife is not confrontational at all. She doesn't want she will. We rarely do grocery shopping and stuff now. We do click and collect a lot. So you just back up to the barking spot and they put the groceries in and there's no contact, you leave. But if my wife does need to go out, not so much anymore, but in the beginning, I mean, she'd wear a mask. She didn't want anybody to confront her or anything like that. And then my daughters, when they would go out with her, they would wear them as well. And, like, not to my knowledge, I didn't know this. And then when I did find out, I was like, no, we're not just going to conform for the sake of, not being confronted. And, now my kids are a little bit more bold that way, because they've come to the rallies where we've had 600 people not wearing masks, other kids not wearing masks. So it's just giving them that sense of normalcy, showing them that it's really not that necessary, right? And my daughter's very smart. My oldest daughter was screened for the gifted program, so she's very intellectual, academically smart. She's smart. She's smart. So I just provide her with enough information to come with her own conclusions, and she knows that these things on your face, they don't really work, because I've done a few different trades. So, if I'm working in an attic with insulation, I actually wear like a respiratory device, like a real mask. Do a lot of surfacing aluminums and metals and stuff. So, like, I have to wear legitimate masks. So she knows that, like, if this was a virus, shouldn't you be wearing a mask that's similar to what you wear to work? Right. So it's just those kinds of things. And I don't really I don't tell them how to think.
I just make sure that I provide them with enough information that they can think for themselves. And I really just encourage them to do that, is to think for themselves. You know, don't just go with what everybody else is doing. You want to like question these things, you know, a little, you know, like what's really working and what's not. And it was hard in the beginning, but I mean, we're 56 weeks into this thing now. You know, we've been under some of the most strictest lockdowns, I think, next to China and Australia. And you know, it's just it's getting bad now, man. We've lost over 300,000 businesses. Childhood suicide, I mean, kids are killing themselves between 9 and 17 years old. That's gone up by 70%. You know, just a lot, man. Kids are suffering now, you know, and I get it. You know, seniors, yeah, small businesses, sure, and everyone else, okay. But like I was saying before, when the call dropped, is like, as a relay race, we have the baton. And I have to run my best race so that when I pass the baton to my daughter, who is the anchor to the future, I have to run my best race to set her up in the best case scenario in a position to win. So that's kind of where I'm at, is like, I'm just doing the best that I can so that when I do actually pass it off to her, that, you know, she's going to win. You know, that's my job.